Okay, hello. Once again, this is the Midnight Skeptic, and let's get this thing going. Uh, I'm off on the right foot yet again. This will go out this coming Sunday on the 3rd of November. I'm recording this on the 1st of November, a brand new month and 4 days away from Election Day, in which we will send the orange sociopathic bloat bag packing, hopefully, along with his worshippers in the Republican Party. Okay? And as I've said before, in my own small way, here at KPCA FM worldwide and 103.3 FM locally, plus YouTube as soon as I get through with this recording and then downloading it. In my own small way, I'm trying to be a force for good on this planet, meaning no hateful Republicans, MAGA heads left in this country. I hope, but that's not something that I'm realistically thinking about coming about. Good, thoughtful, intelligent Republicans, like those who left the party to form the Lincoln Project, PAC, Political Action Committee. It was formed in December of 2019 by George Conway. He's the husband of Kellyanne Conway, the alternative facts witch. Steve Schmidt, I see him all the time on my lefty propaganda site that I go to, MSNBC. John Weaver, I'm not quite sure who he is. Rick Wilson, and I see him all the time as well on my on my lefty propaganda stations. Washington Post. God, I'm having the burpees here. Okay. Washington Post writer Jennifer Rubin described them as, quote unquote, some of the most prominent never Trumpers. Well, we certainly need more from the Republican Party to join this Lincoln Project and maybe even form the core of another Republican Party, another alternative to the Republican Party. Certainly, the Democratic Party in this country does need a counterbalancing opposition party. I'm not against the Republicans for that. What I'm hating on the Republican Party for is just being toadies for the orange sociopathic bloat bag. Okay? So, that is my goal, to rid this country of all Republicans, MAGA heads, Christian nationalists, and Christian fundamentalists who, as a group, have caused so much pain and suffering psychically and physically, which I will get into in a moment. Okay, shout outs. Project Censored, and the three dudes that keep it going: Mickey Huff, Nolan Higdon, and Andy Lee Roth. Andy Lee Roth is a history professor at UC Santa Cruz. Nolan Higdon, who I see on the news programs a lot lately, is a history professor down in Hayward at Cal State East Bay. Okay, Mickey Huff, who I know more than the other two, he is now, let me get my notes to get this right. Mickey Huff is now the distinguished director of the Park Center of Independent Media at Ithaca College in upstate New York, in the town of Ithaca, I guess. That's where Cornell is, by the way. I don't think they have any academic connection with each other, but that's where they are. Okay, and the founder of Project Censored, Peter Phillips, who was a professor, I think, of political science or communications there at Sonoma State. And I met him when I was going there for my master's in history. He had an office right down the hall from the history department. And I would be walking by, and his door was always open. So I'd stick my head in and say, "Hi, Professor Phillips. Good to meet you." And after a while, we went out and had a beer together. He's a good man. He's retired now. I think he retired about 6 or 7 years ago from being a professor. Okay. More shout outs. And I don't have my notes for this. John Crowley of the Aquas Cafe. He holds or hosts meetings of various nonprofits and arts and writing confabs, poets, musicians at the Aquas Cafe. There's one group that has gotten too big to be hosted at the Aquas Cafe, which is Drinks with Shrinks. And I went to the last one. It was 2 Wednesdays ago. And, I went to one about a year ago that was hosted at the Aquas Cafe because there's only about, 20 or 25 shrinks that went there, but it's gotten to be popular. He does this twice a year, and all of the psychotherapists in the Sonoma County come out of the woodwork and go to this. I won't say where this one was held, but not at the Aquas Cafe. They needed a meeting space that's bigger. Okay. And I would say that there was about 60 or 70 psychotherapists of various stripes. Some social workers, some actual psychotherapists, and clinical psychologists. I don't think there were any psychiatrists who, in fact, are medical doctors there. And then there was me, who I was there because I was a private tutor for about 35 years, and I made use on a couple of occasions of my master's in psychology when I was seeing some of my students, and I won't go into any more of that, but let's see, Ralph Scott, he is a audio book producer, and he has a stable of voice thespians at his disposal. He pays them, but it can't be that much. But that's what he does. Let's see, Tom Gaffey, the godfather of alternative teens at the Phoenix Theater, and he is kind of a psychotherapist in a practical way. He deals with them one-on-one there. And I hired one of the alternative teens, because I used to run a tutoring program at the Phoenix Theater. And it didn't last more than 2 years, because honestly, the alternative teens that hung out there are, let's say, not academically oriented. But I got to know this one girl who was a senior at Petaluma High School there, and she was this brilliant girl. And so we hired her as a part-time tutor for our business. My wife and I were doing it at that time. Rabbi Ted Feldman of B'nai Israel here in Petaluma, he is retired now, but I met him at B'nai Israel and going to various functions that they held there to celebrate various Jewish holidays. My wife was Jewish. She passed away in 2013. And, he's a nice guy. And he calls me his favorite pagan, okay, which I take it as the compliment that I'm sure he intended it to be. Okay, and Art Kuznets, that I met through B'nai Israel, nice guy. Tim Conrad, who was in my high school class, is a very well-known photographer down here in Petaluma. Some of his works have been hung at local galleries. And he retired from the Sonoma County Office of Child Protection Services. We need more guys like him who work for Child Protection Services. My voice is kind of gravelly. I didn't do this yesterday because it was just unusable yesterday. But here we go. That's milk, by the way. Okay. Dave and... Okay, these people I'm going to shout out to are people that occasionally listen in. And so I just give them a shout out. Dave and Rosie Takac, the Hungarian cousin, up in Sacramento. Kevin and Lori Burke in Katati. Thank you for inviting me to dinner this last Wednesday. Tom and Nancy Throw. It was a nice lunch that Tom Throw and I had 2 weeks ago. And, over in Sebastopol, Rich and Kathy Berger. And let's see, who else in Petaluma? I'm afraid I'm missing somebody, but no matter. Okay, down in Tiburon, Dennis and Megan, and over down in San Francisco, Yvonne and Rick, and in Pacifica, Stan and Kathy Gustafson. And Stan, I'll be seeing you 2 Sundays from now for the gang to get together and have our meetings playing Liar's Dice and Risk. And further on down, Aunt Jackie in L.A. and her daughter Samantha and Samantha's little boy David and her sister Melanie, who is now living in Austin, Texas. That little bit of blueness in the middle of a red state. I will have some more to say about Texas and in a future segment on this show. Okay, Arkansas, Shannon Reed, and over in Florida, Nelson and Alice. They survived the hurricanes, plural. There was 2 of them. They survived okay, and then Nelson is a retired officer in the United States Public Health Service whose specialty was breathing apparatuses and face masks. That all came in very handy during the COVID shutdown, despite the orange sociopathic bloat bags worshipers who resented having to wear masks. No government is going to tell me what to do. Okay, he has things to say about that. Okay, across the state on the Atlantic side, Amelia Beamer, who is a editor and helps budding writers such as myself with their writings, and she herself is a novelist. And then up to the Raleigh-Durham area, Dr. David Rubin. Go to his website now, David Rubin Paintings with an S at the end, .com. And he's retired from two different places now. He was a pulmonary researcher of endothelial cells and the enzymes that they secreted. You know, the endothelial cells in your lungs. Okay. And then he retired from GlaxoSmithKline. He set up medical research programs for them. And now he's pursuing his art career. Go to his website, David Rubin Paintings. And he has a very, let's say, unique take on reality. Okay, further up to Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger, my late wife's best friend. And then back here on the West Coast, up to Sonora, California, Robert Finnegan, who I'll be spending the night with in a couple of weeks, and Bob Fisher and his wife Sandy and their two kids, Brad and Martha. Brad is the guiding light at the Tuolumne County Historical Society. That's located right downtown Sonora. If you're on a vacation for a week or so and you happen to find yourself up there in Sonora, drop by. What he does is catalog and arrange all of the gifts, I guess, bequeathments that people whose families were here since the gold rush, they have memorabilia and things, and he has acquired all of that stuff. Well, it has to be cataloged. Okay, he does it. Okay, and Darrell Larson, the bronc riding class member of the class of 1961, Judy May, Kathy Francis, and Lynn Quayle, who splits her time between Sonora and Manhattan. Boy, what a contrast. And then further up Highway 108, John Gleason and his two daughters, Jennifer and Tiffany. I don't know where his two daughters are living now or what they're doing now. Tiffany was a professor, or is a professor somewhere, of African history or African studies. She speaks, oh God, I'm doing this without notes. I can't remember the name of the African language that she speaks, but she spent time over there getting firsthand information about Africa in the country of Benin, Benin. Okay, and going way south to Mexico City, Rosamalia Lopez Negrete. Hola, Rosa. And that's it for the shout-outs. Okay. Oh, another sip. Sorry for the interruptions. Okay. There is some bad news, but I always try to start out the shows, the meat of the shows, with good news. And I try to, put in more good news than bad news. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Okay, not my fault. Okay, good news. Local, meaning Sonoma County. Local supermodel Alex Consani, capital Consani, is on the cover of Teen Vogue this month, I guess. She became the first trans female to walk the runway at the Victoria's Secret fashion show. Generation Z's most recognizable face. Okay? Hear, hear. Congratulations to her. A good friend of mine is her aunt. And her mom, as Alex was growing up, was very encouraging of her efforts to find herself, I guess, as all young teens are trying to do. And it worked out well. Okay. She's now an internationally known Gen Z face of high fashion. Okay. Bad news. Professor Philip Zimbardo, who led the Stanford prison experiment in 1971, passed away October 14th at his home in San Francisco, age 91. Phil was the face of psychology all around the world, his wife said. Okay. I remember in my own psychology classes reading about Philip Zimbardo's prison experiment. And I won't go into it in detail, but that's for another show when I don't have to blather about too many political issues. Okay? Okay, the election is coming up on November 5th, and that's 4 days from now. Get out and vote, and you know out there who I am recommending you to vote for. Okay. Good news. LA Times, the newspaper, editorials editor Mariel Garza resigned after the newspaper's owner, Patrick Soon-Chang, who's a billionaire biotech guy, he blocked the paper's endorsement of Kamala Harris. The LA Times is losing subscribers in droves because of this. The editorial board of the LA Times had their recommendations all ready to go, and he put the kibosh on this. So I was not a subscriber to the LA Times. I subscribe to the New York Times. And I don't know, it's a bad time for newspapers in general in this country. They're closing down right and left. And I don't know what we'll be left with in the year 2025. Okay. A book recommendation. The Privateers, How Billionaires Created a Culture War and sold school vouchers to right-wingers. Okay, and this is written by Josh Cowen, capital Cowen. It's put out by Harvard Press, and it tells about how right-wing evangelical Christians are pushing their ideologies down the public schools' throats. Now, when the orange sociopathic bloat bag was in office, 2017 to 2021, His Secretary of Education was, I can't remember her first name, DeVos. Anyway, it is one of the goals of right-wing MAGA heads and Republicans and GOP creeps to do away completely with public education and supplant them with religious schools to some degree, preferably Christian run. And that's one of their fondest dreams. And this is the book that tells us all about it. The Privateers by Josh Cowan, Harvard Press. Okay? I will try to make time to read this, but I have not yet read it. Okay. Bad news. Hundreds more babies died than expected in this country in the year and a half after the Supreme Court ended the right to an abortion, and that's Roe v. Wade, in June of 2022. I'll have more to say about this a little bit later on in the show. Most deaths were infants with congenital abnormalities or birth defects. Diagnosed in utero, more were carried to term under GOP states' abortion bans. In other words, if the medical establishment, whoever it is that the pregnant woman is seeing, her OBGYN, determines that the fetus is not viable, she must, according to MAGA heads and Republicans, carry it to term, because only God can determine when a child is not viable or can live. To heck with doctors. We are depending on Republicans to control everything, especially women's bodies. Good news. Puerto Rico would be the first. Well, let me start that one again. Puerto Rico could be about to elect its first pro-independence governor. The Midnight Skeptic has no feelings either way on the independence of Puerto Rico. I actually believe it should become a state along with the U.S. Virgin Islands. If they can both, be linked together and be made a state. And along with Washington, D.C., should be made a state as well. The fearful, hateful GOP MAGA heads would never go for it, though. Too many of them godless liberal Democrats live there. Well, we can't have that. Okay, Juan Dalnau, Dalnau, of the PIP Party, PIP, which stands for Puerto Rican Independence Party, usually places third in island elections. But lately, due to natural disasters, you remember the orange sociopathic bloat bag when Puerto Rico had a really bad hurricane hit it, standing up and tossing rolls of paper towels to the crowd? That's a natural disaster. Okay. But lately, due to natural disasters, including the orange sociopathic bloat bag, the Puerto Rican Independence Party is gaining voters. Okay? If they want to be independent, the majority of the people, I would be good with that, but I would prefer that they, along with the Virgin Islands, become a state. And also, Washington, D.C. should be granted statehood. All right. Bad news. Republicans and MAGA head GOPers are recruiting poll workers loyal to the orange sociopathic bloat bag. They'll try to slow down the ballot counting process and try to reject as many ballots as possible. Questioning signatures, questioning changes of address, questioning voters who look liberal and or woke or look like Democrats. Okay. The Republicans know that the more people that vote or are allowed to vote, the fewer votes proportionately that they will get. So they just don't want anybody to vote except for good country club Republicans who are pure white, not a drop of minority blood in their systems. Okay, good news update. Samantha and Brian Williams of Nashville, Tennessee, and their 15-year-old transgender daughter are challenging a GOP MAGA supported law banning gender-affirming care for transgender people under 18. When I had a discussion with a rather right-wing relative of mine, and I said transgender care shouldn't be denied young people under 18, he said, mutilation. Of course, he was referring to gender-affirming surgery, which is only done to people over the age of 18. But the power of Fox News and other MAGA heads spouting that word, it really infects the brain of right-wing followers of the orange sociopathic bloat bag. I'm off my notes. Tennessee is home to over 3,000 transgender adolescents, and the health care banned by this law is supported by the entire mainstream of the medical community in Tennessee. The Supreme Court of the United States has scheduled oral arguments in the U.S. versus Skirmetti case that deals with this issue on December 4th, 2024. Chase Strangio will argue on behalf of the Williams family and two other parties who wish to remain anonymous, and a Memphis-based medical doctor and OBGYN, Susan Lacey, who is very brave for coming out in support of transgender care. She could be shot by a MAGA. Samantha Williams, the mother and plaintiff, said, "It was incredibly painful watching my child struggle before we were able to get her the life-saving health care she needed. We have a confident, happy daughter now who is free to be herself, and she is thriving. I am so afraid of what this law will mean for her." MAGA Republicans don't care if a kid is happy or thriving as long as they're not trans. Anyway, I wish the Williams family and the other plaintiffs involved, and Chase Strangio, the lawyer representing them. I wish them all well this December 5th in the Supreme Court. December 4th, sorry. I've seen Chase Strangio a number of times on MSNBC talk shows. Okay. Whew. Great news. Iceland's economy was, I've got to take a sip. I'm sorry. Okay. Great news. Iceland's economy has been outperforming other European countries, even after most workers opted for a 4-day work week with no pay loss. Between 2020 and 2022, 51% of workers accepted the offer of a 4-day work week. Its unemployment rate is one of the lowest in Europe. The trials involved 2,500 workers who volunteered to work 35 or 36 hours a week instead of a 40-hour week. Well, okay, 4 days a week, 9 hours a day instead of 8 would make the 36. Is my math correct? 4 times 9, 36. Yeah. We here in the U.S. could benefit from a 4-day work week if it were not for Republican intransigence and anti-worker sympathies. Republicans don't want workers to have a life. Okay, real good news. UC Berkeley chemists have developed a potential solution to absorbing carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. A yellow crystalline powder, a half pound of which can absorb as much carbon dioxide as a tree can in a year. At scale, the material could significantly reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in a way no other technology can, like the scam technology, DCC, direct carbon capture. I've said before on a number of shows that oil and gas and manufacturing and the plastics industry are seizing upon DCC to try to convince the public that the problem of global warming has been solved. We are now making direct carbon capture plants. It's a scam. It's not working. And I've talked about this before, and it remains to be seen whether this Berkeley chemist's discovery of this absorbent powder will work. But they have tried it on a small scale, and in the laboratory, it does work. Well, some things work in the laboratory, and they don't work as well when it's up to scale, the scale that we would need in order to start really, getting the carbon dioxide out of the air. Okay. Bad news from Texas. Again, yes, again. Jocely Barnica died in a hospital after doctors delayed emergency care. The medical team said they couldn't act to take her fetus out until the fetal heartbeat stopped. All right. Okay. If you go to my Facebook page, I've just posted thoughts of mine. Texas, the place where pregnant women with complications go to die. Texas is so typical of the GOP-controlled state governments. Okay, this November 5th, when you're voting, just any candidate that has an R next to their name, vote them out. Vote for the Democrat, all right? Bad news at the LA Times. I think I've already mentioned this. Biotech billionaire Patrick Soon-Shiong, who owns the paper, directed the newspaper to not endorse either presidential candidate. Subscribers are leaving in droves, as are editorial staff. Yeah, I think I already mentioned that, but okay. I got to organize my notes better than I have been. Okay. Bad news, real bad news. My favorite comedic actress, Terry Garr, passed away from multiple sclerosis. She had been battling MS for a couple of decades. I enjoyed her roles on Young Frankenstein and her appearances on David Letterman. They worked together so well, Letterman and Garr, that rumors sometimes started about them having a romantic relationship. That was false. They just worked well together. Okay. Good news. Colombian President Gustavo Petro is trying to form an anti-fossil fuel compact with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to phase out their dependence on oil and gas. Petro says, I want to end coal and oil and gas-based energy in both our countries. Okay, well, they get a lot of income from oil and gas companies, so I wish them well, and I wish them luck in this endeavor. Okay. Good news, Terra CO2, that's the name of a company, of Magna, Utah, is going to use mining waste to make low-carbon concrete. Concrete production or cement production is one of the most air-polluting things that we have, almost as bad as the transportation industry. Okay, the waste is from the Rio Tinto copper mine, which is right next door to them. Terra CO2 will get a $52.6 million federal grant to build a new plant to make cement that has a much lower carbon footprint. Okay? And of course, I think that Joe Biden is just doing this as an executive, I forget what you call it, executive doing. It would never get through Congress because of Republicans. Let's see. Okay. How much time do I have left? Okay. Bad news from Texas. Again. Another pregnant girl, 18-year-old Nevaya Crane, capital Nevaeh, capital Crain, died in a Texas hospital after doctors insisted on 2 more ultrasound to confirm, quote unquote, fetal demise before they would treat her by removing her fetus. The Texas state's abortion ban strikes again. Are you happy now, Republicans? Are you happy now, Christian fundamentalists, so-called pro-lifers? And don't say God works in mysterious ways. We're all doomed if he works through Republican politicians. Texas abortion bans threatens prison times for interventions that end a fetal heartbeat, whether the pregnancy is wanted or not. Doctors say that confusion and fear about the potential legal repercussions are changing the way their colleagues treat pregnant patients with complications. Confusion and fear is what MAGA head Republicans and Christian fundamentalists rely on for their evil works that they want to do. Good news. MAGA fear and doubts. The orange sociopathic bloat bag election team is blowing money on ads targeting election officials that suggest they don't have to certify election results. Mainly in swing states is where they're buying these ads, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. The ads use the phrase uphold election integrity. Oh, God. An orange sociopathic bloat bag group, quote, follow the law, that's their name of their group, has placed these ads with the logo at the top, suggesting that it's an official correspondence from that state's attorney general. The orange sociopathic bloat bag and his followers and worshipers have real doubts and fears about 4 days from now. I'm telling you all now that Kamala is going to win. And, I've got a few more minutes. There was a few things on last week's show that I had to skip because I ran out of time. Okay. Bad news. Lance Wallnau, capital Wallnau. He's a televangelist. 2 decades ago, coined the term and popularized it amongst fundamentalists, the 7 Mountains Mandate. It says conservative Christians are called by God to occupy positions of power in 7 key spheres of society: business, education, media, government. I didn't finish the thought here. There's more, I guess. Arts and finance. I don't know. But there's 7 of them. If they sneak conservative Christians into positions of power in these spheres of society, they can take over the whole country. Jesus will rule. Okay. All right. Enough of him. Okay. Good news. The Midnight Skeptic says at the end of each show to pet your cat. Studies are now showing that owning a cat lowers the risk of heart disease or strokes. Oh, one more bit of good news. Rudy Giuliani must turn over his assets to the 2 Georgia election workers that he defamed after the 2020 election. Federal Judge Louis Lyman ordered that the assets, including his Upper East Side apartment, be put into a receivership controlled by Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, her daughter. They were both election workers down in Atlanta, Georgia. And the $2 million in legal fees that the orange sociopathic bloat bag owes Rudy Giuliani are also due to the 2 women. I doubt if they'll ever see that. Okay? The orange sociopathic bloat bag drags down and sullies and dirties everybody that he comes in contact with. And, oh boy. Okay. Good news to end the show with. Good Florida news. Judge Walker has issued a restraining order prohibiting Ron DeFascist from threatening to prosecute TV stations that air ads in favor of Florida Amendment 4, which is on the ballot in 4 days. This is the one that adds a guarantee to Florida women a right to an abortion. Okay, and I've said before, I've really got to use all my sound effects that my audio engineer set up for me here. I mean, that laughter sound effect is the one I should use every time I mention the orange sociopathic bloat bag. Okay, I'm going to play my play out music, and I will see you all next week. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. I should have added onto that out recording to think scientifically. Science and faith are just not compatible. Okay? So I'll see you next week. Tune into this thing on YouTube, like in a couple of hours. And I will see you again. Go Kamala. Go Tim.